Just like to offer a big shout out to Touchdown Digital, the sponsor of this channel. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Glenn Selman, you're watching Sniper Photography. Been a bit busy of late, haven't been out with the cameras due to having a lot of construction work. I've had a lot of tradesmen here in the home doing a lot of work both inside and outside, but they finally finished yesterday, Friday. So it's going to free up a bit more time now so I can get back out with my cameras. But today I thought I'd do a quick video on a subject which I have spoken to you all before, and that is foreground element, or using foreground in your landscape photography. Now, I love shooting foregrounds and shooting images with a lot of foreground. Now, it is sometimes an overused part of photography, especially when it comes to landscape photography, but for me personally, I really like it, and there's some good reasons why I think shooting with a lot of foreground in your images really helps you as a photographer, and it really helps your imagery. So I'll show you a few photographs here today, a few images, and I'll show you whereabouts I placed everything and why I shot these images the way I did. So we'll start with this one. This is a local waterfall in my area. Now, as you can see, automatically there's a lot of foreground with these reeds, these green reeds on the bottom of the image and in the lower quarter of the image. Now, if I had stood to the left, to the right, I may not have got that shot the way I wanted it. But by placing the camera around about waist level on the tripod, shooting at f8, I managed to keep everything in focus, and I love the way the reeds are in the front, because you automatically, when you first saw this photograph, your eyes automatically went to those reeds, and then it goes through to the waterfall. So that's what I'm talking about, using foreground element in your images to lead the eye through the image. Now, this next one is up on the Central Coast of New South Wales, probably a couple of hours from here. And this is Summersby Falls. Now, as you can see, this rock here, I don't know how this rock got there. It's obviously rolled down over a period of time in that waterfall. But this rock was in the perfect position. Once again, I had to stand virtually right behind it. Once again, shot at waist level, the camera down at a 45-degree angle. And the rock just cements the image. This is what I call the anchor shot, where if you cover that rock with your hand, you just got all this empty space where when you look at that, if you cover that rock with your hand, you're trying to look at where do your eyes focus. So by having that rock at the base of the image and the base of the waterfall, basically I've got depth there. So we're creating depth and we're creating balance by having that foreground element. Here's another one back in the Blue Mountains again, not far from here. This is shot in portrait orientation because it was a very narrow, chaotic scene. As you can see, got all these beautiful green, mossy rocks there. Beautiful location this, and there's a lot of elements going on here. Very chaotic scene. And you can see got these big rocks in the foreground, then the smaller rocks, and then we go through to the waterfall. But I managed to frame the waterfall with a natural frame of these two trees here. So there's a lot going on in this image, a hell of a lot. Did I really like it? Yeah, in the end I did when I started to analyse the image. But yeah, it has grown on me over time. But as you can see, a lot of foreground element there. Let's go back overseas. This one is in Alaska a couple of years ago. As you can see, I've got this rock here, once again in the lower third of the image, or lower, say, quarter of the image actually, and I was down fairly low, just below waist level, camera on a tripod. But this time the lens I used was a 24mm tilt shift, so that was taken at 24mm but f3.5, would you believe? And the depth of field you get with a tilt shift lens is just amazing. So, but once again, I used this rock here in the center of the image as an anchor point. So as soon as you've seen this image, your eye automatically goes to that rock, and then it flows through the image. Once again, we're talking about building layers in your photography with foreground element. This one here, this one is back in the Blue Mountains, just down the road from home. This is Boar's Head looking towards Narrowneck Plateau. this is another one I wasn't quite sure of, but upon reflection and looking at it, I do actually like it. There's a bit going on here again. This time, there's three parts to this image. You have a look at this one, you see the big rock formation in the foreground, then to the left, it drops away, then you've got the start of the Narrow-neck ridgeline, which goes from the left, middle of the image, to the right of the image. So there's 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. That's what I call a 3-point composition, but once again, it's anchored by the foreground element. This next one is in Katoomba, a bit further up the road here, and a bit of a stormy day happening in the afternoon. The light was very subdued, very nice light actually, and I used all this, this is just on the side of the road actually, I used all these native bushes here as a huge foreground. This was actually shot at 16mm with my 16mm Canon lens, and yeah, rather happy with that. Once again, there's 3 layers there, because you got to keep remembering this, that when you look at a scene with your normal human eyes, you're looking at a 3D image, but your camera is recording in 2-dimensional. So to negate that issue with your camera and your photography, you need to build the image in layers. In other words, use foreground. So you're turning what the camera thinks is a 2-dimensional scene into a 3-dimensional scene, which is actually, that's what it is, through the right placement of your camera and the right placement of yourself. So by incorporating that foreground, you get away from you're telling the camera, no, this is not a 2D image or scene, this is a 3-dimensional scene. This one back overseas, this is in Arizona, in the desert in the United States. I used this petrified timber, heaps of it over there. And in the background, this big rock platform is called a butte. And that's what they call them over there. And once again, massive foreground. But the framing was very important here. You can see where the timber sort of like goes like that, and I've managed to get the butte in the middle. So a bit of combination work going on here. A foreground with the petrified timber, and then the butte in the background. But I think what makes this image is the butte is in the middle of the 2 prongs of the driftwood, or not driftwood, but the petrified timber, I should say. And I rather like that image, and that was actually printed, and it's hanging over there actually. So once again, using a lot of foreground, building the image. Let's go to Canada. This was last year actually, near Lake Louise. Once again, this was taken at f/16, and the depth of field was pretty good, happy with that. But I used all the native grasses and flowers in this shot, because it is a beautiful location. But by just framing the middle of that shot with where the mountains come in like that, and you got the snow there, going to glacier over the back, I managed to frame it, and I've framed it with the 2 reeds coming up. But if I didn't have the foreground element, I wouldn't have got those 2 reeds coming up like that, where the V in the mountain is. So it's all about placement and building that image into layers and using foreground. Here's another one. This was right next door to it, further down the path. Once again, this was taken at virtually probably chest height with my tripod. And once again, I used the rocks and a bit of the foreground there leading straight through into the mountains like that. But once again, using foreground. This was also in Canada. This was further around that lake, and we spent a full day there. Once again, this was all petrified timber, and yeah, just sitting there, just absolutely waiting to be photographed. That is the key element. You'll notice that a lot of these photographs have a key point, or what I call a main actor. And the main actor is obviously what's in the foreground, like this timber here you'll see here. Once again, that was at f/16, ISO 100, and I think the shutter speed was 1/125th of a second. So, and I was on a tripod, and I used one-stop exposure compensation on that one. But as you can see, foreground, bit of rock there, then going off into the background with the mountains. What else have we got here? Here's another one. This is another portrait orientation shot. A bit of timber. This was in Canada. And as you can see, this piece of fallen tree is leading all the way from the bottom of the image all the way to the water's edge where the lake is. So the idea of foreground element is to, as I said, build the image into layers, because keeping in mind as I said, you're looking at an image or a scene that's 3D, but your camera's catching it in two-dimensional. I'll show you one more. This was further around from another image I just showed you, further around from Boar's Head looking that way to Narrowneck. This was actually taken with my 14mm ultra wide angle lens. Now, and that was taken at f8, because with ultra wide angle lenses, basically everything's in focus. It's just the way they work. But as you can see here, a lot of massive foreground element there, and then it peters off into Narrowneck, which goes to the right. So your eye is looking at that bottom of that image and it's going this way. So once again, using foreground element. It just makes your images a whole lot more interesting, and you're helping the person who's looking at your photographs where to train their eye, where their eye is going to start and where it's going to finish in your image. So I love shooting foregrounds. Do you shoot foregrounds? Let me know in the comments down below. I absolutely love shooting foregrounds, and most of my images do incorporate foreground. So let me know, do you shoot foregrounds? Have you tried it? Do you struggle with it? Just let me know. Put your thoughts down below. I love reading I love reading your comments and your thoughts, and knowing what your thoughts are on this particular subject. So yeah, shooting with foregrounds, it's something that I really love, and I will continue to do it in my photography journey here at Sniper Photography. So that's it for another episode of Sniper Photography, and as I always say, be nice to yourself, family and friends, but most of all, you keep shooting, keep smiling. Bye for now.